Hello, Jeffrey. It is me again, doing my cultural report now. I did my topic on the Catholic Relief Act of 1778. Um, so, a little bit about that. Get myself set up here. A little bit about that to start us off. The Catholic Relief Act of 1778 was to levy the strict laws that were against or discriminating against the English Catholics and the Irish Catholics as well in Ireland. So we're going to talk about before that. So the reason they needed a Catholic Relief Act was because there was another act that was implemented in between 1560 and 1660 that they were called the penal laws, the Irish penal laws, or also known as the Popery Code, Popery Code. I'm getting this information from Dr. Paul Stenhouse. Um, some of the chief provisions, or some of the things that this act enacted, was they were pretty harsh. It was a Catholic was forbidden to vote or hold public office. He could not enter any profession. He was forbidden to engage in trade or commerce. He was forbidden to live within a walled town or within 5 miles of a walled town. And it goes on and on. One of the things is if a child turned Protestant, the eldest child turned Protestant, he automatically inherited his father's property at his time of death. So, and this article goes on to say that at the end of it, only 5% in 1778, Irish Catholics only held 5% of Irish land. That's incredible. So, there was so many different things. I only named a handful of them. There's a whole lot, but it's essentially what it's doing, what this Popery Code is doing, is discriminating against all Catholics in general. Saying they can't hold public office was a big one. Now, the Catholic Relief Act of 1778 was huge. In another article by the editors of the Encyclopedia Britannica, it talks about, where is it? Okay, right here. It enabled Roman Catholics in Britain to acquire real property such as land. The Catholic. I'm just going to break it down for you. The Catholic Relief Act of 1778 was a huge stepping stone for not only the Irish Catholics but for the English Catholics as well, and for Ireland as a whole. So it basically allowed Irish Catholics and English Catholics to begin to hold land. So they were able to acquire land and maintain it themselves. That was in 1778. Now, this was a stepping stone for further legislature. In 1791, another bill was passed that enabled British Catholics to practice their religion without fear of civil penalties. And then there was another Relief Act in 1793, and then again in 1801. Now, it all leads up to, and this is huge, it leads up to, there was a man, Daniel O'Connell, and he basically took the Irish lower class and middle class, put them together, and and really put the stress on to England, in it that the English leaders are thinking, oh man, now we're going to have like an uprising or some sort of rebellion on our hands. So that's when they got into giving the English became more. They felt more comfortable giving more to the Irish, and in the end, the final act, the Catholic Relief Act of 1778 led to about 10 other relief acts for the Irish. It took them almost 100 years. But with the University Tests Act of 1871, which opened the universities to Roman Catholics, Catholic emancipation in the United Kingdom was virtually complete. So it took from the Catholic, so starting in 1560, between 1560 and 1660 is what we're looking at, up until 1778, the Catholics were just really getting the bad end of the stick there. It was absolutely awful to be a Catholic in Ireland at that time. And they're trying to eradicate the Catholics from all of Ireland, which is just incredible. And then in 1778, the Catholic Relief Act was very small. I mean, it allowed them to get their own land. And although, that's small, it's a small win for the Catholics, but it led up to them 100 years later in 1871 fully being emancipated from rule, or from any type of legislature discrimination. So that is the Catholic Relief Act of 1778.